A question here from Chris Rawlinson. Obviously, you sail all the time. It started off as a hobby and became a career. And he wants to know that when you've sailed for as long as you have at such high pressure, does it sometimes take the fun out of sailing, doing it all the time?
Well, not really. I think as you get older, you start to appreciate it more. Certainly, that's been the case for me. I think in my early 20s, I was very intense because of the situation I'd found myself in with the Olympics and this huge rivalry with Robert Scheid. And the laser is a very intense class because it's such a strict one design. It's very, very tough. And so nowadays, through experience of a whole different range of sailing, it's certainly more enjoyable. And I guess that's one of the aspects of the sport. We're fortunate there are all of these different challenges. I think the pressure is always something you have to deal with, and it's always tough. Ultimately, at the big events, it's probably not that much fun, but that's just a part of it. And I love sailing just for fun. For example, on a family holiday or something, going out and just sailing around and enjoying being on the water rather than worrying about racing.
And I think he's on to you, because he's also, straight after that question, asked, have you ever been rescued at sea? And he's put in brackets by the RNLI, so he might know something we don't.
Yeah, he might know me better than we realise. Yeah, I have actually. One time in particular, had to get rescued by the RNLI inshore lifeboat at Hayling Island, but I wasn't on my own. I was with Ian Percy. And we were learning to sail a Laser 5000 back in the days when the Laser 5000 was a big new class of boat, and we managed to pitch pole this Laser 5000 on Hayling Island Bar, and we had to get towed in by the inshore lifeboat, and we'd broken the mast and ripped the sails and just destroyed this boat. And so they towed us in past the sailing club at Hayling Island, and everybody was there clapping and cheering on the balcony. So for both Ian and I think it was one of our more embarrassing moments in our sailing careers.
And obviously one that you're not allowed to forget. And we've had a question from Ali. If you could give one piece of advice to a young sailor, what would it be? Just one piece.
I think the most important thing is to enjoy it. You know, certainly that's where it comes from. If you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, then that will give you the determination to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest things, but hardest things to remember when you're having a bad day. And actually, Harriet Powell, how do you recover from a bad day sailing, especially when you're not enjoying it?
Well, it's really hard. I mean, we all get frustrated. I know certainly I'm one of the worst at beating myself up over a bad day. But there's two main things really. I think to learn from what went wrong and try and improve on it. Sometimes there's nothing you can really do, but sometimes you can pick up something good and try not to make the same mistake twice. And secondly, you just have to keep positive and go out and try and right the wrongs from the day before. And all of us make mistakes. And it's really important how you deal with that and come out the next day in a positive mind frame.
Question here from Peter Howson. How much of a part of the support of the British Olympic programme has played in your success? Who have you got to thank?
Well, hundreds of people over the years. I mean, I'm feeling old now when I think to the number of people who've helped me through my career. Obviously, my parents, through the Royal Yachting Association, a number of coaches, starting with Jim Saltonstall, John Derbyshire, David Howlett, who coaches me now and coached me back in 2004, Jez Vanstone, who coached me in 2008, and many sponsors and local government organisations and friends and family over the years. So there's a huge number of people.
So what have you got coming up now? What's your schedule up until 2012? Is it very mapped out? Do you know the next place that you're going?
Yeah, well, I'm heading off to Australia in about a week's time. There's some regattas out in Perth, in Western Australia, in Melbourne, through November and December. So it's all happened quite quickly, but it's really just a great opportunity for me to get back in the boat and get the hours back in the boat in what's probably going to be some quite windy venues. I mean, it's going to be hard because I'm pretty rusty the time I've spent in the boat and my body weight being quite light. So I'm expecting a bit of a tough time from the rest of the guys. I think most of the top sailors in the fin world will be there. So it'll be tough, but it'll be the fastest way for me to get back up to speed. And obviously, I love Australia. I'm looking forward to getting back there.
For you, obviously, you got a silver medal in the laser and three golds in the fin. Daniel James has asked, do you prefer the laser or the fin?
It's an interesting question. I loved the laser when I was younger, just through the fact that it was just pure racing, and you didn't have to worry about the equipment or the costs necessarily compared with some of the other classes, and you just got out there and got on with it, which for a younger guy or girl is a lot easier. I love the fin now, or the more technical boats, as I'm a little bit older and more experienced, and it's nice to be able to actually work on that side of it and try different setups of the boat or different technical ideas, and that's an important part of it. The fin is also a very physical boat. It's very tough physically, and you know, that's a challenge which is also it's hard work, but it's good fun as well.
Especially with the weight gain. And I know you've mentioned Australia a lot. Rachel Cora has asked, where's your favourite place to sail?
Yeah, I think I mentioned Sydney with the Olympics, and yeah, that's my favourite place. It's just a great city, it's a very fun city, beautiful waters. Sydney Harbour on a Saturday in the summer, Sydney Harbour is just full of boats from one end to the other. It's just an amazing sight. I've never seen anything quite like it, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
And obviously, not so far away from there is the World Match Race event in Malaysia. What do you think about there?
Yeah, we've been doing the match racing tour for a couple of years now with Team Origin, and we've never really done all of the events, and so we've kind of put ourselves in a difficult situation with the overall tour. This year, I think we've done 4 or 5 events, and we've done pretty well. So we're in a position we could win the tour if we have a good event, and 2 of the other key teams, you know, struggle. So we're going to go for it. It'll be a nice way to end Team Origin. So we'll be at the final event in Malaysia in December in Kuala Terengganu, and hopefully we can do well and finish off on a good note.
Absolutely. And I've just seen a question here, which is obviously a little bit about superstitions. Tom would like to know if you have any lucky items of sailing gear that you wear to big events.
I've had a few over the years. Normally shoes end up being quite important for me. I don't know, just with the dinghies, especially moving around a lot. Caps are always another one which are really important because we all have such odd sized heads. So shoes and hats, I guess, are the big ones for me.
And he's also asked, what's the most frightening experience you've ever had in a dinghy?
Yeah, possibly yesterday actually. Off Portland Bill in 30 knots of wind and 5 knots of tide. We were out there training, and problem was the waves were so big and the wind was so big that I was out with a guy I'm training with, Mark Andrews, and we capsized a few times, but the wind was so strong we couldn't actually get the boats upright. Took us a while, so fortunately we had our coach David Howlett with us looking out for us, but that was a little bit worrying. So probably in a dinghy, that's one of the dodgiest moments I think I've had.
Yeah, but when you sort of hear about such wind, everyone normally loves that. Is that when it's fun? Is that when training's an actual pleasure, when you can go out and...
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's different. It's a real challenge, and yeah, it is good fun. We actually really enjoyed going upwind. When we turned around to come back downwind, we realised quite how extreme the conditions were, and it took us a while.
Just seen an interesting question here, Ben. If you could start your sailing life again, what would you change? That's a toughie.
Not much, I don't think. I mean, I was really fortunate because I actually started learning to sail with my parents and my sister in a small cruising boat. So I kind of started from that side of the sport, which was just about sailing from A to B and having fun on family holidays. And then I got into racing and Optimus, and so I kind of had a different view going into it. And I've been very fortunate, as I said, with the support and everything that I've had. I couldn't have really asked for any more, so I've been very lucky.
Couple of questions here. One from Demetra. How important is it to have a watch during a race, and what functions are the most useful?
It's very important. Yeah. No, timing like most things in most things is everything for sailing, especially getting off the start line. So yeah, it's really important to have a good watch.
What functions do you use most?
Countdown is normally pretty handy. The countdown to a start. It's even around the course, it's important to have an idea of how long. Sometimes there's time limits on the legs, for example, and the actual race itself. So in somewhere like China, for example, where the tide was a huge factor in the racing, it was really important to have a good handle on what was happening with the tide and what time that was changing. So it's big.
And someone's asking here about clothing. Julian, I presume he's talking about our winter when it's cold. What do you prefer sailing in the winter, wetsuit or dry suit?
Well, I sail in a wetsuit with a dry spray top. Dry suits are great, but it's kind of doesn't really work in the fin. But some of the other dinghies, I know the 470s, for example, or 49ers, even some of those guys wear dry suits and love them. But for me, I'm afraid it's just wetsuit hiking shorts.
You just have to sometimes get cold.
Yeah.
Catherine Brushwood would like to know if you have any sailing heroes, and if you do, who are they?
Well, I do. I mean, like most people growing up, I had some heroes of guys who have really been successful in the sport. I think Paul Elvstrom, of course, is a legend to everybody because of what he did in the early days of the sport. I think not just the amount of gold medals he actually won, but he transformed sailing really in terms of his inventions and developing the sport. It's quite amazing if you read some of his books and some of the stories about how he would go out one day and design the self-bailer or a different sheeting system on the sail and really huge developments. So I think he was really someone very special. I think in the America's Cup, Russell Coutts has obviously been the standout performer in that arena in the past. Obviously he's got quite a lot to do with the current America's Cup, so I'll hold my judgment on what happens in that.
And Slava has asked here, I think she's asking, and you've done quite a few races, so which was your perfect race in your life? Can you cast your mind back to one race when you thought, yes, that was great?
God, perfect race. Yeah, I think one race which I always remember very well. Well, it wasn't in the Olympic Games. It was a race in Laser World Championships in, I think it was 1997 against Robert Scheidt, and it was quite a windy race, and we were probably, I don't know, two boat lengths away from each other the whole way around this race, and it was quite a long race in those days, about an hour and a half. And I remember coming up to the finish and it was neck and neck the whole way, and I just got across the line first, and I was completely exhausted. I don't know about Robert, and he'd actually, I think in that race he'd done enough finishing second to win the World Championships, but I just remember thinking that was an amazing race. You think back to the challenges, and I certainly count that as the most intense race, I guess, of my career. It was an incredible race. It was so close the whole way around, and it was just a pretty awesome race.